Hello everyone, our sub-theme is governance, and our issue question we will be discussing is how do government's immigration policies affect unity and diversity? Immigration policies are rules and regulations set by the government around the transit of people across borders and those people moving countries.
So immigration will bring advantages and disadvantages. In post-trade part, it can increase the tax revenue for governments, and it can reduce the cost of labor will decrease for the factories, and it can make our countries become more diversity. But in the post-trade part, the unemployment of the local national people will increase, and the governments will decrease the investment in developing technology because the expenditure on healthcare and education will increase, and then every immigrants should be covered.
Now, I'm sure that when we talk about immigration, most of you here have heard about the policy that President Trump had proposed. Build a wall, he said. I'll build a wall and I'll make Mexico pay for it. He had secured $1.57 billion to build a border across the Southwest. And he still seeks taxpayer money to pay for it. Didn't he pledge that Mexico would pay for it? Well, why is he making such decisions? It's true that most of the illegal immigrants in the USA are from Mexico. But it's also true that they helped build the United States. Is it really fair to keep them out like that? They're just looking for better lives. Also, President Trump had made countless offensive and insensitive comments towards many minority groups. His decision might come from prejudice, hatred, rather than genuine concern for his people. Does he really care that the immigrants are taking up living spaces, that they're taking up jobs, and they're using the privileges that the local Americans deserve? Well, the impacts of this policy include maybe some positives, like indirectly uniting local Americans and also population control. But these things could have alternative solutions. For example, population control can be done by making family planning much more accessible to the local people.
So, hi guys, my name's Rainbow, and recently I've been wanting to migrate to one of these 6 countries, but I'm kind of lazy and I'd rather not do the research. Since you guys are so knowledgeable, can you please share with me more about your country's immigration policies?
So first, we will introduce the immigration in China. I have a question. Do you know how difficult it is for people to immigrate to China? The answer is very difficult. There are 3 different kinds of visas for people to immigrate China. The first type is D type. It's issued foreigners who get married with Chinese citizens. And the D type allows those foreigners to come in out of China for multiple times for work and study within 2 years limit. Another type is the Z type. It's usually called the working type. It enables foreigners to work in China and requires them to be qualified in certain areas as an expert. And they need to meet a particular standard. The last type is called the X type, which is for students. And we seldom hear about people applying for or successfully got the Chinese green card, which is permanent resident visa. Basically, Chinese governments issued this kind of visa for Chinese peoples who has been living abroad for generations and now want to return back to China. In 2016, Stephen Marbury, the NBA star, was one of the 1,576 foreigners who becomes Chinese citizens. China's immigration policies show we prioritize attracting foreign talent to increase economic modernization. So much like the policies in Japan and South Korea. For diversity. China is making friends, treating countries equally, and promoting trading with respect with external environment. For internal, China is seeking for a very restricted immigration law to sustain the unity side.
Well, Rainbow, migrating to Indonesia isn't as hard as migrating to any other country. All you have to do is apply for a stay permit. Well, there are two most common types of stay permits in Indonesia. One is KITAS, short for Kartu Izin Tetap Terbatas, and the other one is KITAP, short for Kartu Izin Tinggal Tetap. KITAP is valid for 5 years at a time and is usually used by expats who are willing to stay longer in Indonesia. Well, as for KITAS, it requires a sponsorship from either an Indonesian entity, an Indonesian spouse, or it is also available for people over the age of 55 who are looking for earlier retirements in Indonesia. Immigration had contributed a lot to Indonesia's diversity. We're a country of more than 17,000 islands. We have 6 official religions, and almost 90% of us are Muslims, which is a result from Muslim traders coming into Indonesia. 45% of us are Javanese, but more ethnicities significant in number include Sundanese, Maduris, Malay, and also Chinese, which are also results from trading in Indonesia.
In New Zealand, to be able to live in New Zealand, you have to get a citizenship, which means you have to have lived in New Zealand for 5 years on a resident status. You have to be able to handle day-to-day situations with good English, you can't have any crime convictions, and you must understand the privileges and responsibilities of being a New Zealand citizen. In New Zealand, you can also get visas, which allow you to stay for a shorter amount of times. These include a visitor visa, which is mainly used for tourism. This is valid for up to 9 months. A student visa, which is valid for those students who want to carry out their education in New Zealand. These are valid for the length of the course. You can also get working holiday visas, which are valid for up to 12 months, and a work visa, which are offered to those who want to get job offers in New Zealand, and these are valid for the length of the job offer. You can also get resident visas, which are similar to citizenships. These allow you to, access the same public, services such as healthcare and education, and also allow you to stay in New Zealand for an indefinite amount of time. Currently, New Zealand is taking a breather on immigration. This means that less work visas are abused, meaning less immigrants are coming to New Zealand and filling low-paid, low-skilled jobs. For New Zealand, this means that net migration is going to drop by approximately 20 to 30,000 people. New Zealand will then focus on unifying its citizens in the country at this current time. Diversity will then be embraced within the country and the citizens in New Zealand. Those who immigrate to New Zealand and gain citizenship will then become part of this diversity.
Well, Rainbow, here in Singapore, we have an open immigration policy. All you need is a professional or a tertiary qualification. Then you can apply for a 1-year visa here to get a job. Finally, you will be granted permanent residence, and should you want to become a citizen, you can go through the process of naturalization. So why Singapore has such an open immigration policy is mainly because here in Singapore, we have no natural resources. Hence, our most valuable resources are the people. And back then, in Singapore's history, people would rather migrate to other countries as there were better prospects there than in Singapore. Furthermore, foreign talents bring their unique skills and talents which really contribute a lot to the society here in Singapore. So this immigration policy brings diversity to Singapore, where people of different cultures, they celebrate, people of different cultures can celebrate their own cultures in the country without having to conform to any other standards. So in Singapore, we try to integrate all these societies into one country rather than separate them. An example of diversity in Singapore is Racial Harmony Day, where people of diverse backgrounds, we all come together and unite on this day to celebrate our diversity. Furthermore, another example of diversity is the curry incident, where a migrant Chinese family, they did not like the smell of curry of an Indian citizen who was cooking curry at the time. It created a lot of tension, and in the end, it resulted in a lot of disputes. Hence, there was this initiative called Cook and Share a Pot of Curry, where people supported the Indian citizen who only wanted to celebrate their own culture. So we try to accept everyone's culture here and unite instead of dividing.
Now, Rainbow, in Taiwan, the policies are a little stricter as compared to other Asia-Pacific countries. For permanent residency, a foreigner is qualified if he or she is legally resided in Taiwan for 5 consecutive years and physically present for half a year. One is also qualified if they are a spouse of a Taiwanese citizen. As an exception, foreigners who made significant contributions to Taiwan society could also be awarded a citizenship. They are also required to take an entrance exam or naturalization exam with scores higher than 70 out of 100. It requires good behaviors, no criminal histories, proficiency in Chinese Mandarin, understanding regular laws and regulations, and ability to support oneself financially. As you can see on this chart, the majority of Taiwanese immigrants is from China and Hong Kong, followed by other Southeast Asia countries such as Vietnam. In Taiwan, immigration diversity is very significant. Workers from Southeast Asia enriched our working environment. Different spouses from China, Southeast Asia, and many more has also made our community more interesting. As we become more international, a lot of English teachers are also requirements in most schools. As husbands or wives of Taiwanese citizens, they also make up a crucial component of our society.
I'll explain about Japanese policy. Japan is accepting a small number of immigrants. Now, Japan is facing aging society. We seek for assistance for other countries, for example, Indonesia and Malaysia, such as nurses. They are trained how to speak and write in Japanese and get a license to be nurse. These foreign nurses help our aging society. Japan is tolerant towards those people. On the contrary, our government has a strict law that immigrants seeking shelter from wars that come to Japan are accepted and given a year of assistance, but do not integrate into Japanese society. Due to social and political concerns, let me talk about advantage and disadvantage. One example of advantage of accepting immigrants is that they are helping our aging society. They work and pay taxes to the government, which makes our society more wealthy. An example of disadvantage is that Japanese lose their jobs because they are taken jobs by immigrants. So, therefore, Japanese people and governments do not accept immigrants easily.
Thank you. I feel so informed now. Plus, I saved a lot of time. But can you tell me how all of this relates to diversity and unity?
After all these differentiations of the policies, we can say that immigration openness has contributed to more diverse societies. However, there are still pluses and minuses considered. Various cultures bring in different skills and talents and enrich our communities. On the other hand, a more diverse societies often has tensions and conflicts arising as a result of immigration. Any other way, we would have questioned how this diversity can make us united. But it is this, and this only, that makes us understand the importance of coming together as one. As we become more international, it is important to remember that immigrants, they bring us a chance to learn to accept different races, different religions, and different upbringings. And we should learn to live in peace and live in harmony together. People should open their minds to the differences we all have, and, immigrant or not, come together united as citizens of one country.
In conclusion, our issue question of how do governments' immigration policies affect unity and diversity is answered differently depending on the country's rules and regulations. Those countries more open will gain more diversity, whereas those more closed will have less. However, unity is always willing to be achieved by most countries, no matter what their policies on immigration are. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Team Rainbow. Please be seated. And that was indeed a thought-provoking presentation.